Hi, this is Jody King Colegrove with Quantum Techniques, the most diagnostic form of energy medicine in the world today. I wanted to share with you today my story of why I'm a Quantum Techniques practitioner. I've known Steve Daniel as a personal friend, and a family has known him since the age of 13. And after my husband and I were married for a while, we decided that we wanted to have children. And so we went off birth control and tried. After about a year, we got really frustrated. I mean, just deep frustration, like, why is this not working? Back when I was age of 12, I had gone to the Hallmark store and I had purchased a diary. And I've always been a diary person, kind of keeping thoughts and that kind of thing. And I bought this diary because it really meant a lot to me. And on the front of it, it had a saying that really was who I was as a person. If you can imagine it, you can achieve it. If you can dream it, you can become it. And that's by William Arthur Ward. That was my center. In other words, I had dyslexia. I got through that. I got through school. I graduated, the tops of my class. If I could imagine it, I can achieve it. And here I had reached a place in my life where I wanted a child and I couldn't make it happen. I can't explain to you how much that made me feel like I wasn't a woman. I would see all these women out there walking around. I remember one lady was standing in the grocery store with 5 children on food stamps, and I'm like, God, here I am. I have a good job. I can provide. I'm happy. Help! I want a child, and it just wasn't happening, and it was really hard for me. So after a year, we decided we would go back to our doctor and say, what more can we do? And she suggested that we go to a specialist in Phoenix that did IUIs and IVFs to help people get pregnant. So we started on that route. So what an IUI is they capture the sperm, and then they, when I ovulate, they take that sperm and put it as close to the cervix as possible so that they can get the sperm closer to the egg without any disturbances from fluids and things like that. So we decided to do that. We did that about twice. And I remember one of the last times that we had tried it, we were on vacation on New Year's. And the devastation to get your period on New Year's Eve, when you're trying to start the new year with new hopes and new prospects and new dreams, was really tough. I cried a lot. It hurt. Again, that whole idea of, why won't my body perform the way I want it to? Why won't it do what it wants to do? So we went back to the doctor and we said, well, now what do we do? So he went through, what is IVF? So he went through all the list of drugs, all the shots you have to get, all the procedures you have to do. They have to grow the eggs. They have to grow as many eggs as possible, so they're just loading up with hormones. And then they go in, they capture all those eggs in a surgery. Then they, put the sperm in them and actually fertilize them. And then they freeze them. Then you have to wait a little bit to get your body to adjust to getting rid of some of those hormones. Then they can go back and say, okay, now you've had a full cycle, let's put back some eggs, but they have to defrost them. So I captured 18 eggs. When they defrosted them, only 6 were viable. Now, we didn't want too many multiple children, and so we decided as a couple that we only wanted to put in 2 eggs at a time. Some people choose to do more. So we put in 2 eggs that were fertilized, and first time it didn't take. Again, it was really hard. And I remember laying on my bed realizing it didn't take. And in my drawer in my bathroom, I had these scissors. And the thought crossed my mind that if I stab myself in the stomach, maybe I can get rid of this pain where my body's not performing. but I didn't do it. I remember my husband came in the room and he saw how much I hurt, and he just held me. And he said, we'll get through this. So we tried again. Granted, you have to be aware that the cost is phenomenal. I mean, I think it's about, when I did it, it's maybe about $45,000 to do one IVF treatment. So we tried again. We had somebody that had gone through it and actually got a child, and so she had some leftover drugs, and she happened to be on a health plan. We were doing it all out of pocket, and so she gifted us our drugs. And so I had about $8,000 worth of drugs that were able to be paid for, which was a blessing for me. So we did that procedure too, and it did not take. So we went through the pain again, and we just kind of said, well, in that time, I didn't really kind of say, we had the 6 eggs, we took 2. When they defrosted the next 4 or whatever, only 2 were viable. And so we were out of eggs, and so we couldn't do the harvesting again because we didn't have any money. So we kind of said, well, okay, that's it. We're not going to have a natural born child. So we rested for a while, and we worked with Steve. Now I have to admit, I'm telling you my story, but all through this, I was working with Steve to find out why the body wasn't performing the way it should. And we would talk to the doctor and say, okay, well, it seems too that I keep losing this egg on the 28th day, and that's what we can go in and kind of test. And so I asked the doctor, what happens on that 28th day? And he said, well, that's when a certain hormone kicks into your body and helps the egg attach to the uterine wall. So I worked with Steve and I said, okay, this is what the doctor's finding. What can we do? Well, we found that when my husband and I had first gotten married, I didn't want kids right away, and so I had taken a birth control. Well, one of the birth controls that I had taken was a oral contraceptive of a wild yam. Now, sometimes women use that as a topical for helping your progesterone and estrogen levels, but this was actually an herb form, and it had coated the inside of my uterus with a film that would not allow that hormone to be released for the egg to be attached. So we were able to go in and tell the body, we don't need that anymore, get rid of that substance out of the body. And with Steve, I worked on all the emotional issues, obviously, of healing with that. And within 5 months, naturally, we were able to conceive. And I now have my 9-year-old son, and he's just been a joy. And so we're so grateful for working with Steve and being in Quantum Techniques to help us answer the question of why it wasn't happening, what can we do, and how could we heal this. And so I wanted to share with you my story today and let you know that that's why I was in Quantum Techniques and why I'm a Quantum Techniques practitioner today, because that was such a healing in my life that I want to share that with others. And so that's why I became a Quantum Techniques practitioner. So if you would like to do a Quantum Techniques session with me, you can email me at jody@quantumtechniques.com, and we can schedule a session. So blessings, and thanks for letting me share my story.